So now the piece is glued to the paper. Voila. Now the reason I love these types of appliances is, if this were any other type of material, foam rubber or silicone, it's paper thin, you can see, in certain areas almost see-through. If I had to glue this piece, and obviously I'd be really careful, and I have to glue every little square inch of it, it would probably take me 20 minutes to glue this one little piece. And if you get an air bubble trapped under it, I got to go back in and get that air bubble. It's really, really time consuming, and it takes quite a while. Whereas this, on the other hand, is much, much quicker. So I'm just going to place it right about there. Lay it down, select that. Now, again, one of the reasons why I like it on the paper, and Christien has started on Grey Gardens especially, we did certain pieces that were actually applied to fabric. So they would wrap around and give you a little more flexibility. I personally like the paper because it gives me a little bit more flexibility when I'm gluing something down. So it's not laying on the skin. It actually like stays straight, so I can then kind of push it where I want it. But now that it's kind of pressed on her, I'm going to take some water, a little setup towel. I'll wet this. Close your eyes for a sec. I have had actors say that this, especially the fact that the time constraint is much less, that they'd prefer this method over the minuteness of gluing down every inch of an appliance, a really thin appliance or detailed appliance especially. So I'll just double check. You can only go so thick with the transfer pieces. As you'll see, some of these pieces are a little thick that I'm using, but so now what I'm doing is, as I've lifted it off, a couple little air bubbles that I will press down. This went over her eyebrow a little bit, so I'll see if I can blend that out. I'm going to use a little brush and some alcohol, and I'm just going to I have a little bit of working time before it totally settles. So now that I've got this forehead piece on, I'm just taking off a little bit of the flashing with a little bit of alcohol and a brush. And again, the only reason that there is flashing is because it's not quite made for her, so it's ending in places where there's a little overlap on her eyebrows and everything, which probably wouldn't have happened had we sculpted it on her live cast. Much better. Now with the Q-tip and a little alcohol, I can kind of blend out the edge a little bit, because again, it is just Pros-Aide and glue, so it will break down. It will break down with alcohol. Now where I've gone over the eyebrow, I'm going to see if I can dissolve that a little bit. This is where it's a good idea to have a big supply of like little Q-tips, pointed Q-tips. Because sometimes having those little baby Q-tips is good. Wipe some of the glue off my fingers. All right, now, very important part of when you're putting on the transfers is making sure that you powder them because they're very, very sticky. Next thing we'll do is, these are the eye bags. Nice. Because no matter how hard we try, sleep, we don't get as much sleep as we want in the later years. Go back to look up for a second. Let me clean up. This is Pros-Aide, same process. So what we're doing is we're taking our little thin down Pros-Aide and we're just going underneath where the eye bags are going to go. Something that no human being should ever have to deal with. Yet shockingly, we all somehow get them. Okay. Now I'm going to try and cheat this right up to. Okay, we'll peel off the plastic. Okay, look up a little bit. There you go. Take our water, we'll take our wet towel. You want to make sure that the paper is suitably wet enough to release the appliance underneath. The paper has an emulsion on it that when it's hit with water, it just starts to separate from the glue. Nice. Look up a little bit. There you go. This looks really nice because it's so subtle and it's I was very specific. I mean, I tried to be very aware that we didn't want big eye bags. All I wanted to create was just the tiniest bit of a a shape there. Close. Does it feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's one. You want your little damp towel here to literally have enough water on it that when you press, you can actually see a little water coming out. Great. You can always take a little water on your fingertip and tap down little areas. If an edge kind of lifts up when it's dry, again, we can take the alcohol and kind of so before I go on to the cheeks, I'm going to spray a little Ben Nye Final Seal, which is just a good all-purpose sealer, and this is what Christien recommends sealing the pieces with. So I'm going to spray, just wipe a little bit of this over the surface. I always ask the actor to keep their eyes closed, especially if you're working around the eyes, because this has a tiny bit of alcohol in it, and the fumes will be a pain. I'm going to turn your nose a little bit just so I can lay this. One of the great things about a transfer appliance type makeup is readily changeable. Only after you do the test. So that's why we do a test, and that's why I would always insist on doing a test. It's going to overlap a little bit and be a little strange, but that's good because we'll know what to change. I have had actors fall asleep on me, and sometimes it's a blessing. There are certain actors that I wish would have fallen asleep. Don't smile too much. The more you stay away from the edges of the corners of the mouth, the better. Again, because we did a generic sculpt, open your mouth a little bit. This one kind of hits the corner of her mouth a little bit. But luckily, I pulled her face back far enough where I got it right to the edge, so I can just lightly tap it down. But ultimately, during the course of a day, you don't want to be fighting corners of a mouth creeping in, or lips, or wrapping over onto lips. So a good rule of thumb is to stay as far away from the edges of a mouth as possible. You know, when you're doing an old age, sometimes it's tricky because you anatomically have to create certain folds, but for the most part, you could cheat it to give yourself that's one of the perks, again, of being the makeup artist applying it. You know where to end a piece where you're not going to have to deal with it all day long, popping and, the actor constantly rubbing their mouth. And okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing to this side, because I know this one I have a little less leeway sculpturally, but I will do my best. By pressing down on it, I'm just making sure that the edges of the piece are locked down in contact with the skin really well. And it opens up her sinuses. There is one little thing that comes in handy sometimes. If you've got thicker appliances, or sometimes really paper thin transfer appliances, and you start to peel off the plastic and they're sticking to the plastic, you can take a can of compressed air, and spray it with a little freon, which will freeze the piece, and it allows you to peel up the plastic a lot more easily, because your piece is now like solid, for sake of a better word. It's got a little wrinkle in it. We'll see what it looks like.
Okay.
If something were to stick, a little alcohol on a brush, a little flaw in the paper. Close your eyes, please. Well, if you don't like that. This one I'm not going to put glue down just because I want the less glue on top of her eyes, the better. It'll settle into her, on her lid better. By sealing it, I'm effectively getting rid of any tack, and I'm giving it a surface that's easier to paint. So now this is kind of like a nice generic, you know, kind of little waddle, you know. Not a, you know, I've done, you know, where it's more of a big pooch, or there's so many different ways you can do a neck thing. But this will just give us a little bit of the cords hanging down. But you know what? It's one of those telltale signs, or women can look completely, you know, lifted in the face, but the neck always kind of betrays us. Lift up a little bit. I'm kind of doing a combination of spraying the paper to soften it a little bit so it'll contour, but I'm allowing most of the water to take place in the towel. And I've done this many different ways. You know, some people soak a towel in water, they use a cloth towel, or the setup towel is kind of nice because it doesn't hold too much water, it just holds enough. Again, it takes a good, you know, it's a good bit of water to kind of release it and lay it down. But the more water you have, you're drenching your actor, which then becomes another problem. Okay, we've got all of our pieces on. The next stage is going to be painting. We'll throw a little color on her.